Tuesday, July 4th, 2017, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So markets are going to be very quiet today because of US Independence Day, 4th of July. The futures are trading though. We've got the Dow up 40 points. S&P is up 9 points. So stock market doing okay. Gold is up $4.50 at $12.25. So gold's rebounded a little bit despite the big drops yesterday in gold and silver. Silver this morning is unchanged at $16.12. And overnight in the aftermarket yesterday, there's some kind of glitch in the NASDAQ after hours trading. And it triggered, according to Zero Hedge, triggered market-wide circuit breaker as Amazon crashed 87% after hours. Well, the exchange is saying it was just a glitch, some technical, difficulties, and that trades would be canceled, trades that were traded at the wrong price. But something really interesting, when you depend, when the markets are all electronic and there's no more human interaction like on the phone or face-to-face, these kind of things happen. But this morning, the markets are fine. So it was just, it looks like it was a glitch, but is it a signal? I don't know. But what I want to talk about today, after this quick market recap, is more about Keynesian economics and big government, the welfare state, the warfare state. And I know there's two, there's left and right. The people on the left think that government should provide welfare and run people's life as much as possible. People on the right think, governments should have strength, military, and go to war, defend big business. I personally don't agree with either of them. I think government has gotten too big, and whatever government has been doing has had the opposite effect. And I'll start out with, the Woodrow Wilson, who said World War I was a war to end all wars. Did that happen? No. The war on poverty started in the 1960s by Lyndon Johnson. Has that ended poverty? No. The war on drugs probably started out by President Reagan. Has that been won? No. The war on terror, has that been won? No. And for some reason, the general public keeps giving government the benefit of a doubt and electing people who want to continue, these policies of big government and interference, be it, in our social lives, economic, warfare, welfare. And the other thing as well is the Keynesian, I'm not blaming Keynes directly for this, because I don't think he intended for the system and government to get this big. I think he thought it was just like a temporary thing. If the economy slowed down, that government would spend a bit more, and then, government, when the economy picked up, government could retire the debt and go back to a balanced budget. And that's probably the way he thought. But I still kind of blame him, because he should have known, and I'm sure he knew the human nature, that people always take things further, and that probably the best thing would have been not to, come up with his theory of having government interfere to smooth out the business cycle. Because all that's done, it's gotten government and the state much, much more ingrained into our daily lives. And people, warfare state, welfare state, either one, in my opinion, has gotten too big. The welfare state, it's a controversial subject. A lot of the pensioners and older people who've been working for a long time here in the UK or the US, they've paid into the system, and I'm not saying they're not entitled to get those payments when they retire. But the only problem is that all that money they've paid into the system has been used for other things by government. It's basically been stolen. And that's why we're running huge deficits, huge national debts, and all the other money for other entitlements. It's all been stolen. So the money that pensioners are getting now, it's not as worth as much as when they paid into it in terms of purchasing power, because government has been given the monopoly with the bankers to print money out of thin air, to manipulate interest rates low so they can keep printing and paying off the money that they stole. You see, yeah, it's just like, you know, you give someone money, they look after it, and they spend it, and they come back for it, and they can't give it to you. But government, they can just print it and give it to you, but it's going to be worth less. And the people that this hurts are the young people. And that's why we're seeing, you know, so many, you know, such a high rate of unemployment in the youth unemployment in Europe, in the European Union, even here in the UK. Maybe not as bad youth unemployment, but the wages have dropped massively, and you know, they've kept the housing bubble going, so young people can't get on the property ladder or real estate ladder. They need to rent, and the rents have gone up because the older people who have saved money, they can't put it in the bank because there's no interest being paid, so they get a bit more of a return from rent. So the people who have been hurt are the young people, and it's ironic that, especially here in the UK, a lot of the young people voted for a socialist, you know, Jeremy Corbyn, who wants to have more of the same, who's going to make it even worse, who's going to steal even more of people's money. And I'm not saying that the conservatives are any better, because they're not. You know, they still, you know, they continue to bail out the banks. I know it was under Labour's watch that they bailed out the banks, but they've more than doubled the national debts. They really haven't had any austerity, people. All they did was lower the rate of increase of the welfare state. That's not a cut. So, yeah, it's frustrating that young people have been fooled into thinking that all their problems will be saved by more government. And also the corporate, you know, sector and the big business, let's say more the right wing, they also think that for some reason government should be big, that they need to keep spending to keep the economy going. But that's wrong as well. So I'm saying that we need less of, you know, corporate welfare and social welfare, because it's very clear that government can't keep, you know, can't run a budget. They can't really do much except fight wars. They're good at, you know, starting wars. They're good at inflating the currency. They're good at creating misery. So that's why I say we need less government. And unfortunately, though, in the UK and also in the US and other places, the government has taken control of some of the education. And young people are, you know, educated by the government, and they're not going to teach them, you know, the benefits of freedom and small government. You know, they're not going to, you know, how can I say, they're not like, they're like turkeys. They're not going to vote for, you know, for Thanksgiving or Christmas. They're going to teach young people in the public or state schools the benefit of government and welfare, that it's good, but they'll never tell them that basically government has been stealing from the people who have paid into the welfare and into the public sector schemes like national insurance or Medicare, Medicaid, national health here in the UK. You know, I've paid into it, but I don't expect to get much in terms of purchasing power in about, I don't know, 12 years time, when I'm entitled to get the pension, national pension. So that's why you need to look after yourself and not be dependent on government, because the thing that government does best is take your money without your permission, which is, you know what that is. And the way they've been able to cover it up is by borrowing the money. And the way that they've been able to borrow despite massive debt, more than 100% of GDP, is that they saved the bankers in 2008. So now, you know, they're like, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. So the bankers artificially keep interest rates low so that governments can keep borrowing. And the bankers benefit from that because, you know, they make money out of lending to the government at a fictitious and fraudulent interest rates. That's the biggest crime of the 21st century, is the fraudulent nature of our monetary system, and it's starting to show. You know, the middle class has been eviscerated. You know, young people are, you know, unemployed. Almost 25 to 30% of young people in Europe have no jobs. Young people in the UK can't afford to, you know, get on the property ladder. They're earning a lot less than their parents. I know someone I spoke with a few months ago. I played golf with him, a young guy, and he said, I'm earning, you know, as much as my dad did 25 years ago, but the house I want to buy that's similar to the one my dad bought is 4 times the price that it was then, but the wages haven't gone up. So that's what's happening. It's basically a massive wealth transfer from the younger generation to the older generation. And I'm not blaming the older generation. I'm blaming the government, because they stole the older generation's money. You know, it should have been earmarked for, they shouldn't have touched it, and they have. So that's what I wanted to talk about. Yes, we need smaller government, and we need to run our own lives, because government has shown to be totally corrupt and incompetent to do so. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, share it far and wide, subscribe to my channel, watch me on steemit.com as well, steemit.com. I'd like to thank also all the people who've donated to my channel. If you'd like to donate, there's some links below in the description. I'll talk to you later. Bye.